The next step is trying to get familiar with these three functions. And we have the first one, pthread create over here, which takes 4 parameters. The first parameter is going to be a variable which is a pointer, and it's a pointer to a kernel defined type pthread_t. This will become like a reference to the new thread that is going to be formed by pthread create. The second parameter is pthread attribute type, and for our case we are going to use defaults. So this can be used to change attributes about the threads like thread execution priority, and you can consult the documentation for additional explanation of this one. The third parameter over here is simply the name of the function that must be executed in the newly formed thread. Now this may look intimidating to some of you because it has 1, 2 and 3 asterisks in one go. Without going into the details, technically this is the syntax of function pointers. So in simplest case, you have to specify just the name of the function as the third parameter to pthread create. Now there are some restrictions, and the restrictions are that it can take as a parameter a single value, which should be a void pointer. Also, the function that will execute in the new thread can return a value, but this value has to be strictly a void pointer. The fourth parameter to pthread create is going to be the value that should be passed on to the function. Now the reason for having it is that when you want a function to execute in a new thread, you are not just going to call it by specifying its name, parentheses and semicolon. This is not going to cause the function to execute in a new thread. This will become clear to when we look at the example code. So far I have just talked about pthread create. Next I will explain quickly about pthread exit. Notice that pthread exit is the last statement in your function that is executing in the new thread. So here is the syntax of pthread exit, and this is going to indicate to the system that this thread is done. And over here you will see that you can specify a void pointer as a value over here. This is because the thread function can return a value. As I told you earlier when explaining pthread create, the function that you wish to run in a new thread can take a single value and it can return a single value. Both must be strictly void pointers. This will also be the usage of pthread exit will also become clear with the code example. Finally, we have pthread join. As written over here, pthread join in essence is like the equivalent of wait. Remember that when we were looking at processes, fork and wait are supposed to be used together. The parent process calls fork, which is going to cause a new process to form, but the parent process should also call wait. It should not just keep on forming new child processes and run away. In essence, for every fork there must be an accompanying call to wait. Similarly over here, for every call to pthread create, there must be an accompanying pthread join. Pthread join takes two parameters. The first parameter will be used to specify which thread we are interested in waiting for, because at any point in time there could be multiple threads that have been formed by the main thread. The next parameter of pthread join is a double void pointer, and this is going to be there for capturing the return value which is returned by the thread function. So once again over here, pthread create is called in the main thread, which forms a new thread. In one of the parameters to pthread create, we specify the name of the function. So over here, if the function that we want to execute in the new thread is named A, the third parameter to pthread exit would be the name of this function. If we want to pass a parameter to this function at runtime when it begins execution in the thread, that will become the fourth parameter to pthread create. When this function is done executing, in the new thread, it must indicate that by calling pthread exit. If it wishes to return a value, it should be passed as a parameter to pthread exit. Pthread join will be used to wait for the new thread to complete execution. The first parameter of pthread join specifies which thread we should wait for, and the second parameter is used to capture the value which is sent back by pthread exit.